There is a reason you found this right now. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, but in this exact moment, at this exact point in your life. Heaven does not broadcast on every frequency. Most people will never receive what is coming next, not because they were not loved, but because they were not listening at the appointed hour. This is yours. And I need you to understand something before we go any further. This message has an expiration. 9 minutes. After that, the frequency closes. The window shuts. What if every closed door was never a no, only a not yet? What if every season of silence, every moment you questioned whether you were truly chosen, was preparation for this? For a signal so specific it could only find you when you were ready to receive it. You are ready now. The frequency is open. What you receive in the next 9 minutes has the power to redirect the trajectory of your mind, your clarity, your abundance, in ways that cannot be undone. So I am asking you, stay, listen, receive. Your season of waiting just ended. Before we go any further, if you stay until the very end of this, here is what you will walk away with. You will understand exactly why the breakthrough has been delayed, and why that delay was never what you thought it was. You will learn about a specific frequency state that the most significant transformations in history all passed through. And I will show you the one tool that places you inside that state, the same one people have used to shift the direction of their lives almost overnight. Every minute of this matters. Stay for all of it. Most people navigate life outside their appointed frequency. They hear noise, constant, low-level noise, and they mistake it for the signal. They are busy, but not moving. They are trying, but not receiving. And they have no idea that the door has been open this whole time, waiting for someone willing to stop and actually listen. There are two kinds of time. Clock time, the kind that moves the same for everyone, the kind that fills up with obligations and distractions, and all the small emergencies that steal the day. And then there is heaven's time, appointed time, the kind that does not run on a clock at all, but opens like a window briefly, specifically, and for one person at a time. Right now, for exactly 9 minutes, they are synchronized for you. That is not a metaphor. That is the architecture of how divine timing works. There is a season for every purpose under heaven, not eventually, not in some distant future, but at a specific moment, for a specific person who has been specifically prepared to receive it. You were not supposed to find this at another time. You were supposed to find it now. And there is something heaven has been waiting to place into your hands. You have almost received it 3 times before. This is the 4th attempt. This is the one that lands. But before we get to what has been held, you need to understand why it was held. You need to understand who you are, and why, of all the people who could have found this, it found you. There is a specific kind of loneliness that nobody talks about. Not the loneliness of being isolated, not the loneliness of having no one around you. It is the loneliness of being spiritually awake in a world that is spiritually asleep. It is the loneliness of knowing somewhere deep and unshakable that you are supposed to be living a different life, carrying a different level of clarity, walking in a different kind of abundance. And yet the evidence around you does not match what you know on the inside. You have prayed, you have believed, you have watched people move into the very things you have been quietly asking for, and you have had to smile, genuinely smile, even while carrying a question you never said out loud. Why not me? That question has a way of shape-shifting. Sometimes it sounds like doubt. Sometimes it sounds like guilt. Most of the time it sounds like a quiet, tired voice that says, maybe I am not faithful enough. Maybe I did something wrong. Maybe the blessing passed over me without stopping. And the worst part is that you have never fully believed those explanations, but you did not have another one. So you kept carrying the question. Here is what I need you to hear. That question was never your weakness. That question was the proof. Only the ones who are chosen to carry something significant ask it that deeply. Only the ones whose assignment is large enough to require preparation ask it that long. Comfortable people do not wrestle. People who are being refined do. Joseph did not know that the pit was preparation for the palace. He did not feel the architecture of what was happening while it was happening. He felt the cold and the dark and the silence of being completely forgotten. The pit did not look like preparation, it felt like abandonment. But the story did not end in the pit. The pit was a chapter, not a conclusion. If your life has felt like a pit, if you have been down in the cold and the silence and the not yet of seasons that seemed like they would never turn, you are not at the end of the story. You are at the turn. And then, underneath everything, underneath the confusion and the waiting and the quiet grief of dreams that were real but had not yet arrived, a voice, not loud, not dramatic, just clear. You have not been overlooked. You have been protected. The door that did not open was not locked against you. It was locked to preserve what was behind it until you were equipped to carry it without it destroying you. That time is now. The waiting was not wasted. Every single day of it was currency being deposited into an account you are about to access. But there is something you need to understand about how this works, about how heaven actually releases what has been held, and why some people step into their breakthrough while others, just as faithful, just as deserving, remain on the edge of it. There is a specific mechanism, and science only recently began to understand it. Ancient civilizations were not primitive. They were precise. Egypt built its entire calendar around appointed windows, the rising of Sirius, the flooding of the Nile, not because of superstition, but because they understood something we have largely forgotten, that time is not uniform. Time has texture. Some moments carry more density than others. Some windows open and then close and do not return. Jerusalem understood this. Babylon understood this. Every culture that produced lasting civilizations built its architecture around appointed hours. The ninth hour appears throughout Scripture with a weight that is hard to ignore. It is the hour of prayer, the time when the veil between heaven and earth was thinnest. It is the hour that Cornelius received his vision that changed the course of the early church. And it is the hour when, from the cross, the curtain in the temple split from top to bottom, the veil between the human and the divine, torn open forever. 9 was never arbitrary. 9 was an architecture. Now consider what modern researchers discovered when they began studying peak human performance, not the kind that comes from grinding, but the kind that comes from a state they call flow, the condition where human beings operate at the absolute ceiling of their capacity, where decisions become clear without forcing them, where solutions appear from nowhere, where the weight of survival thinking lifts and something entirely different takes its place. What they found was that these states are not random. They are not gifted to some people and withheld from others. They are triggered, and once properly triggered, they last an average of 9 minutes before the brain returns to its baseline. This is not coincidence. This is architecture. Someone designed the human brain with an appointed window. The problem is that most people, especially people who have been carrying heavy seasons for a long time, live at the wrong frequency. Work pressure, financial anxiety, the low-level hum of everything that has not worked out yet. All of it keeps the brain locked in a survival state, cycling through low, defensive patterns, scanning for threat rather than opening to possibility. And you cannot receive a divine transmission on the wrong frequency. That is not a spiritual failure. That is physics. A radio locked to one station cannot pick up another, no matter how real the other signal is. The problem is not the broadcast. The problem is the receiver. This is the first revelation. The reason breakthroughs happen to some people and not others is not about worthiness. It is about access, about being tuned to the right frequency at the right appointed hour. And there are people right now, some you know personally, who crossed into a different season almost overnight. Not because they worked harder, not because they were more deserving. Something shifted in how their minds were receiving. Something changed in the frequency. And when the frequency changed, the appointed window opened, and what had been waiting on the other side came through. We are going to talk about exactly what that is. There is a researcher who spent years studying this gap, the gap between the people who break through and the people who plateau, between the ones who shift and the ones who remain on the edge of their season. His name is Dr. Robert Lake, and what he was looking for was not a new framework, not a new philosophy. He was looking for the variable, the one thing that was actually different. What he found was neurological. The brain operates in frequency states, measurable electrical patterns that correspond to different levels of consciousness and capacity. Most people, most of the time, are locked in a state of active problem-solving and low-grade stress that feels like productivity, but is actually the brain's defense mode. Nothing new enters there. Nothing significant shifts there. But there is a state above it. Scientists call it gamma. Gamma, brain waves, oscillating between 30 and 100 cycles per second, are associated with something specific: peak insight, accelerated pattern recognition, heightened awareness, a dissolution of the fear response that keeps people locked in scarcity. In gamma, the brain stops defending and starts receiving. It stops calculating survival and starts perceiving possibility. The mystics had no word for gamma, but their descriptions of the state they entered before their greatest revelations, the clarity, the lightness, the sense of something opening, match it exactly. The prophets who heard clearly, the visionaries who saw what others could not. They were not supernaturally unique. They were neurologically open. And here is what changes everything. If the appointed window exists, and if the human brain has a specific state it was designed to receive in, then the only question left is, how do you get there? How do you cross from locked to open? How do you move into gamma when years of hard seasons have trained your nervous system to stay guarded? You were not created to grind your way to the threshold. You were created to be placed there. The tools exist, the frequency exists, the appointed hour exists. All three are present right now for you in the next 9 minutes. In the next part, I'm going to show you exactly what the tool is, not a discipline that requires months of training, not a practice that demands you already be calm before it works. A specific frequency created by the same researcher who spent years understanding this window that places the brain at gamma threshold in minutes. And what happens when someone who has been waiting in a long season finally accesses that state during their appointed hour? Stay with me. Dr. Robert Lake did not write a book about what he discovered. He did not create a course or a curriculum or a system of 12 steps. He engineered a sound, years of research into the relationship between brainwave states and what he calls the receptivity threshold, the precise neurological condition in which the human mind shifts from defense to expansion, led him to a single question. What if the crossing could be made effortless? What if instead of working toward gamma, a person could simply be guided there? The result of that question is something he called the Genius Song. It is an audio track, not music in the conventional sense, though the people who have listened to it describe its quality as unlike anything else they have encountered. Beneath the sound, layered at specific frequencies, is a calibrated sequence designed to gently, steadily guide the electrical patterns of the mind toward the gamma threshold. Not through effort, not through meditation practices that require years of training, just through listening. You do not force your way to gamma. You are guided there. And in most cases, it begins within minutes of pressing play. Now, think about what this means. The 9-minute window has always been available. The broadcast has always been real. What the chosen one has been missing is not worthiness. It is not faith. It is not effort. It has been access. The right frequency, open, held steady. At the moment when heaven is ready to release what has been waiting. People who have come to the Genius Song, carrying the same weight you may be carrying right now, the same questions, the same long seasons, the same feeling of being so close to a turn that never quite arrived. They began reporting things that did not fit their previous patterns. Clarity that arrived without forcing it, as if something that had been tangled for years simply fell straight. Decisions that had no clear answer finally revealing themselves, not through analysis, but through a settled knowing. A direction emerging from confusion, the way a road becomes visible in morning light, as the fog lifts, slowly, and then all at once. And alongside that internal shift, practical changes. Resources beginning to move toward them rather than away. Doors opening that had shown no sign of opening. Relationships shifting. Opportunities arriving. The environment around them beginning to rearrange in response to something that had changed on the inside. Not because the audio gave them something external, because it opened something internal that was already there, already prepared, already deposited, already appointed, but locked behind a frequency the brain had never been able to reach on its own. I have to tell you something important. What Dr. Lake created is precise. The frequency calibration matters. The specific layering matters. And because this work has reached people who have experienced real results, imitations have appeared, copies that carry the surface of the idea without the precision of the original research. Not every audio that claims to do this actually does. If you are going to access this, you need the original. The only source I share, the only place where you can find Dr. Lake's work, exactly as it was designed, is chosenrise.com/song. I will say that again at the close of this. But I want you to hold that now, because what I am about to share next is going to make something in you want to move. And I want you moving toward the right door. There is a third revelation. It is the one that changes the stakes from personal to something much larger. The pattern of the chosen one is not just about personal blessing. This is something that most spiritual content gets wrong, or at least incomplete. The blessing that has been trying to reach you is not primarily about making your life more comfortable. It is about making your life more consequential. Every lineage has a turning point. A single moment where one person crossed a threshold, and everything downstream changed. The starting point for every generation that followed them shifted because of what one person received and carried. For some families, that person lived generations back, and you can trace the direction of your life all the way to their decision. For other families, the turning point has not happened yet. The line is still waiting for someone willing to step into the appointed window. Waiting for someone who, instead of letting the frequency close, chose to receive. That someone is you. When Jacob wrestled and would not let go, when he came out of that night with a limp and a new name, it was not just personal. The name Israel became a nation. The blessing that moved through him moved through bloodlines for generations he never lived to see. He did not carry the result. He carried the beginning. You are not being asked to carry everything. You are being asked to carry the beginning. The first domino. The crossing that changes the direction of everything that comes after you. When a chosen one steps into the gamma window during an appointed hour, when the frequency is right, and the state is open, and the moment is prepared, what transfers is not just individual clarity. It is an authority, a settled, quiet knowing that begins to reshape the environment around a person, the decisions they make, the people drawn toward them, the resources that start to move in a different direction. It does not announce itself loudly. It simply changes the direction of things. The 9 minutes are almost over. But here is what I want you to understand, not as information, but as something to receive. What has been deposited in you during this time? If you have truly been listening, if something inside you has been recognizing rather than simply hearing, is already working. The frequency has already begun to shift. You are not the same as you were when this began. Something has moved. Something that will not move back. And what begins in you today does not end with you. It begins a line, a new direction for everything and everyone that carries your name forward. The ones who come after you will begin from a different place because of an appointed window you chose not to let close. Receive it. Most people left before this moment. They clicked away in the first minute, or the third, or somewhere in the middle, when it got too real or too close. You are still here, and that is not small. That is the evidence, not the beginning of it, not the proof you have been waiting for, but the evidence that you have already been receiving, even when it did not feel that way. You are exactly who this message was for. 3 things were placed in front of you today. The first, the delay in your life was never punishment, and it was never abandonment. It was preparation, specific, deliberate, and now complete. The second, the appointed window is real. The broadcast is real, and the human brain was designed to receive it in a specific frequency state that changes everything about how a person moves through their season. The third, you are not being chosen for yourself alone. You are chosen as a beginning, a turning point for a line that has been waiting for you to step forward. Dr. Lake's work, The Genius Song, is the tool I described. If what you heard today resonated with something real in you, if something inside you recognized the frequency we talked about and wanted to know what it actually feels like to be there, then this is the next step. It is not a shortcut. Shortcuts take you around the work. This is an access point. It takes you into the frequency where the work becomes possible, where what heaven has been holding can actually be received, because the receiver is finally open. The door is open. You still have to walk through it. You will find it at chosenrise.com/song, the only authorized source carrying Dr. Lake's original research exactly as it was designed. Not an approximation, not an imitation. The real thing, from the original work. Now, one more thing before I close. There is a version of waiting that is preparation. It is sacred, and it has a purpose, and it shapes you for what is coming. And then there is a version of waiting that is the enemy of the chosen one, disguised as patience, the kind that lets one more day become one more month, that lets this close to drift back into someday. Do not let these 9 minutes become 9 more months of standing at the edge of the very thing that is already yours. The window is open. Honor it. What begins in you today, the clarity, the shift, the opening of the frequency, may it move through you completely. May it settle into your decisions, your relationships, your work, your home. May the ones who carry your name after you inherit a different starting point because of what you received in this appointed hour. May the line change direction here. May the generations after you begin further along, because you stayed, because you listened, because you received. You are not waiting to become chosen. You have always been. What happened today is not a beginning. It is a recognition, the confirmation of something that was true long before you found this. You are chosen. You have always been chosen. And now you know it in a way you cannot unknow. This was the message that found you 4 times. The first 3 times, the preparation was not complete. But this time, everything aligned, the frequency was open, the appointed hour arrived, and you were ready to receive it in a way you had not been before. The 9 minutes are done. But the frequency once opened does not close the same way it opened. What was received stays. What was shifted does not unshift. Go. You have everything you need.